In addition to creating purchase orders from requisitions, they can be entered directly, choosing items to buy and receiving them into stock. From the Purchase Orders module, the list of outstanding purchases appears in the main grid, either at the document level or at the item level where separate detail statuses can be seen and grouped. When making a new purchase, there are a number of tabs for storing information and looking up other transactions. The main tab is the place to select the vendor for the purchase and the items you want to buy. If you plan on having the delivery of goods go directly to the customer rather than to your address, you can enter the customer code and their shipping address here to indicate this. Inventory details are entered directly into the Items grid, where inventory codes can be searched for and selected, and quantities or other values typed in. Some default values can be configured from the Vendor Prices area for this item, when the item is being purchased from the specified vendor. Keyboard entry allows for navigating the fields easily, including using the Enter key to add the next item. Or the Scan Items function can be used for adding new items that have UPC codes configured. If you need to investigate past purchases from this vendor, perhaps to verify order quantities and costs, the Purchase History tab gives easy access to these, including listing the details that match what's on the current purchase order for comparison, and drilling down to see the historical transaction. Spire has multiple ways for assisting with workflow when tracking the progress of purchase orders, controlled by user security for appropriate access. One way is by using customizable phases to indicate what stage the purchase is at, either for approval or for entry status or whatever else you might need. You define what the different phases and sequence are. When a purchase reaches a new phase, you can choose to either manually select it in the Order Details area or increment it from the Next Phase button. Anytime a phase is changed, the time and user are tracked and viewed on the Phase tab. Another set of workflow statuses provide access to functions and processes. An open purchase order would be issued to indicate that entry is complete, and for sending the purchase document to the vendor. Also, for purchases with an issued status, new fields and tabs are activated to prepare for receiving the inventory. In the Items grid, the Receive Quantity column is available for manually entering values, or use the Receiving button to set all items with the full quantity received, or reset to 0. If UPC codes have been assigned to these items, from the Receive Order tab, you can scan the barcodes for received inventory and increment the values. After all the inventory received values have been entered, and any lot or serial numbers assigned where applicable, the Receive button is used to update the database on-hand quantities and set the purchase order status to Received. If the vendor invoice was provided with the shipment, it can be entered now. Otherwise, it can be entered later when it comes, using the Invoice button. When entering the invoice, if the amount was different than expected, it can be changed here, along with any freight amount not previously known, which can be included in the landed cost if a company setting is enabled. Include other invoice information. Then the transaction can be posted. If the purchase order was fully received, it can be closed immediately after invoicing. Otherwise, it remains active for future receipts.